right, as promised, today we have one of our TNA Business Breakfast show coming live from Moya Estate, approximately 4 kilometers from my house.
Really?
Yes, that's where they are.
You should be there, you should be there. All right, well, there you have it. So let's cross over now to Peter, who is in Bloem with the Premier, Ace Magashule, as well as a lot more guests joining him. Good morning to you, Peter, and your guests.
Thank you very much indeed, Palesa, and I know that we're in your hometown and your part of the world. This province is home for you, but it's starting to feel like home for me. I've been coming here for years and years, and it's great to be in the Free State always, and especially for this, the latest in the series of New Age Business Briefings brought to you by the SABC and kindly sponsored by JIC Mining Services. And today you'll see some very interesting sights. You'll see grown men like me wearing school uniform, and you're probably wondering what on earth is going on. Well, let me give you some clues. Tomorrow begins Youth Month in South Africa. Now, for those outside the country that perhaps don't understand why we have a whole month dedicated to the youth, June 1976, students had an uprising. They were fighting against the educational system here, particularly the medium of instruction being a language that was not their own being forced upon them. Many children died, and these uprisings spread across the country, and children gave their lives and sacrificed in great part their education at that time to create the kind of South Africa that citizens enjoy and take for granted now in 2017. So for the whole of June, we recognize the contribution of our youth in the past, but also as we think about the youth now and the challenges that they face and the future that is being created for them. So that's the premise. Youth Month begins tomorrow. Here in the Free State, the Premier has decided that this is something that's important to him, and I'll find out why in a short while, and has created a position actually within his office to address youth issues. So youth, as we know, are by and large the most affected, the most disaffected at times, the most unemployed and the most challenged just because of their age. Now imagine if youth are facing those challenges just by being youth. It's doubly difficult for youth that have got some disability or the other. So today we're also placing extra attention to youth with disabilities and some of the challenges that they're facing and some of the things that are being done to make sure that they fully enjoy the rights enshrined in the Constitution, that they're able to participate fully just as every other citizen in the country. And we'll find out what some of those initiatives are, how they are facing those challenges, and how the Premier's office is putting this on the agenda. But let's hear from our panel, and there'll be a few voices that will be held during the course of this broadcast. But let's start by welcoming the Premier of the province, Premier Ace Magashule. Thank you very much indeed, and welcome. Always a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure, Peter, and the panelists here. A very important month, June month. This is when, as you have said, our youth in South Africa, especially in Soweto, led a struggle against Bantu education, particularly Afrikaans. And I think that was the beginning of closing the vacuum of those organizations like the ANC, PAC. When they were banned, it revived the spirit of our young people to further continue fighting against Bantu education, especially Afrikaans as a language. And we are here today because I appointed Tswelopele as the youth advisor in my office. Fortunately, the end of the month she will be graduating. She has done a PhD, so from June, the end, we'll be calling her Dr. Tswelopele. And she has been our undergraduate bursary holder. Originates from Limpopo, came to the Free State to study at the University of the Free State. When she had challenges in terms of student fees, she approached us, and she's a graduate, and she's also the treasurer of the ANC Youth League in the province. And we have Nyalleng here. She was also in the NYDA board nationally, and she's also in my office. She's blind, very active and vibrant, and I think we are here today to say, as from tomorrow, we'll be celebrating June month. And we want to congratulate the youth of South Africa and the continent, and we want to say this is the beginning of making sure that radical economic transformation and socio-economic transformation happens, and during our lifetime and their lifetime.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Let's just meet the others. You've introduced them, but just to say hello literally to our viewers, Tswelopele Manabile, the Youth Advisor, welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Peter. Good morning.
And next to you is Tebogo, who is living with albinism and is going to share thoughts and insights about that challenge. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to you as well.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, South Africa. Good morning, team.
And to Nyalleng Potlane, who's former NYDA board but is now sitting in the highest office in the province. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to you.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, our youth with disabilities. We are really part of State Magashule.
All right, so Premier, why is it so important to you? Because I'm not sure that other premiers have a youth advisor in their office. Why did you personally take this challenge upon yourself?
Well, the youth have always complained that our population, especially also in the province, is very youthful. And we realize that they are the future and nobody can stop them. And we therefore agreed at CPF, PCF, that's where our mayors and ourselves come together every quarterly. And the youth then were very vocal in terms of youth issues and youth matters. And that's why I made sure then in our province we have a youth advisor, and we agreed that this is the year where we have to focus seriously on youth issues, and that's why we are here today.
Okay, Tswelopele, this is a huge engagement for you, given, as the Premier says, the number of youth that are in the province, but in the country generally. You're dealing with the most vulnerable in society, and particularly those with disabilities. So you've got a huge task ahead of you. What are you hoping to be able to do as the advisor to the Premier?
The most important thing, Peter, would be to make sure that young people in the Free State know that the provincial government led by the Premier does care for them, and now their voice will be heard. As you see, we want to unify the youth, and we want to unify the youth through progressive youth programs that will be implemented by the provincial government, but young people will always be at the forefront.
All right, so one of the things that's quite important is this month's theme, which is the Year of OR Tambo, Free State Youth at Center Stage, Nothing for Us Without Us. What does that mean?
It simply means, Peter, that from all spheres of government, provincial and local level, nothing will be done without the youth being there. They can no longer be decision-making processes and programs being implemented where there are no young people at the front.
Right.
So nothing without us, nothing for us without us.
Okay, so your voice must be at the front of all of the decisions affecting you. Oh, well, that's fantastic, and I think this is part of why during the course of this program you're going to be hearing people with various disabilities, so that they can give us an insight firsthand of how they've been able to overcome some of these challenges, and perhaps how society and the world in general can continue to make sure that we adjust things and take away obstacles so that they can enjoy, as I said earlier, the full rights enshrined in the Constitution. So, Tebogo, you've you live with albinism, and that comes with its own challenges, I'm sure. Tell us a little bit about, the challenges of living with albinism and what that means for youth in particular.
Thank you, Peter. Peter, as a person living with albinism, I think it will be best to say albinism is a manageable condition. The sooner people understand that living with albinism is just a condition, it doesn't determine who you are. That's the key point. Going back to my background, fortunately when I grew up, I had a very supportive structures. By meaning supportive structures, from being a child, I've grown up with supportive family, supportive teachers, and supportive schools. As I'm proudly wearing this uniform today, this is my grade 12 uniform from Mtsu Secondary School, which is a mainstream school. Fortunately, I didn't go to the private school or centers for persons with disabilities. Fortunately, I went to the mainstream school where I had to engage with different challenges. Like for an example, you will find a situation whereby you are in class, then everything is being written on the chalkboard and you can't be able to see it. Sometimes it's the playtime. Fortunately, other kids have to play on sunny areas and so forth. But because of the sensitive skin that I have, I couldn't be part of those. But fortunately, I had to make peace with things that I could not do and go with things that I can be able to do. As you asked how one can cope in terms of living with albinism or having albinism condition. Fortunately, after completing my grade 12 in 2004, I've been active in the disability sector and the mainstream sectors. For an example, I've been active inside Disabled People South Africa. I've been active in the ANC Youth League. I've been active in the ANC. And fortunately, I always tell people that if you don't become part of the people, people will not accept you to be part of them. So fortunately for me, around the area that I'm living in, yes, there are challenges, but at some point we had to overcome those challenges. For an example, currently, I think we have set a pace as the Thabo Mofutsa district, whereby we are having different people with disabilities occupying the space as young people, including myself. Thank you, Peter.
All right, fantastic. I'm going to explore also some of the vulnerabilities that people living with albinism face. But thanks very much for that introduction. Let me turn to you then, Nyalleng. And you know, we take sight for granted and hearing and all these other senses. But looking at you and listening to you, whilst sight has been taken away, life hasn't been. And I'm just wondering how you've been able to compensate, been assisted to live in a world that's created by and large for visually sighted people without sight.
Thank you, Peter. Actually, as the youth who grown up in Free State, I got a voice that to say youth with disabilities, especially visually impaired, have to voice and say, I would like to be the part, I would like to be included. That's when I got to be very active and very participative. I've been in leadership, as I mentioned that I was a board member nationally, board director, and there it's by virtue of with my leadership in the province of Free State, where I was a chairperson of Disabled Youth South Africa and South African Blind Women in Action, and I've been participating with another structure, and I worked well in school. I was attending school in Baltimore. My family could understand that I'm a blind person. I have to walk alone and learn my mobility, which is to use my cane to walk around and be independently walking alone. And the mobility is the training that we're taking through to learn how to walk alone, go around. Against all odds, we managed to achieve a lot of things. I achieved different degrees from University of Venda and University of KwaZulu-Natal, and I managed to even be in a leadership of management through the offices of provincial government, and where I've got to be Deputy Director in Roads and Transport. Here I'm with the Office of the Premier, working with Tswelopele, including again voice out the voice of youth with disability, and really working with Tswelopele and say with our Premier again and say what youth with disability would like to get, what youth with disability are facing the challenges. Youth with disability are facing the challenges like to be the one that are intellectual. They would say we don't know how to write and read, and that we faced out that people they like to read and write and get to vote in 2019. And we proudly say we moved a lot of trainings around how blind people can vote independently. There's a program called UBT, Universal Ballot Template, from IEC, and that it gives blind people to read Braille and vote independently. So it's one of challenges and the achievement that we found as blind people. With we mentioned that nothing for us without us, included ourselves.
You've mentioned a few initiatives which I find fascinating. I'm going to ask you another question just after the break, and maybe you can think about it, is what do you want to tell society? Because I know that, you know, over time things have changed and improved, but there's often society think that if you're blind you can't do anything. So how do we change society's thinking, and also young blind children, how do we inspire them to be you? Because you've gone and done it. You know, a lot of sighted people have not been able to achieve what you've been able to achieve. So just that message to get across. We'll get to you straight after this break, because we do have to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.